I would suggest at the very least something we need to probably acknowledge and learn all the way through this article is the fact that, guess what, guys? You've got to... You may have heard me say this over the last couple of days, that sometimes one of the biggest pet peeves I have with Chris is the idea that he doesn't seem aware enough to realize that it's just not working. How do I know this? Well, let me take you back to 2017, my friends. In the name of honesty, love, and kindness, I will defend myself and punish you. Only if I feel I need to. Don't make me feel the need to. Chris to Lady of the Cosmo. Lady of the Cosmo to Chris. You have no heart and no life, so that you feel the need to harass women on the internet. Yeah, your life was completely wasted. Oh dear. Lady of the Cosmo, nicknamed Lady, is a close friend of several Planet Dolon members, including Doopy Doover and Hellbent. Fully aware of Chris's antics before and during the Doopy fiasco, she chastised him after he tweeted at her on the 25th of August 2017. In what was probably been Chris's biggest dose of reality since the father call, later Chris unfollowed her and she blocked him. How did all of this happen, by the way? Well, let me demonstrate. On Twitter, Chris met Lady of the Cosmo on the 25th of August 2017, responding to a tweet about how she's tired and is about to go to sleep. Okay, officially good night, y'all. I'm so tired from the all-nighter I did. I'll see you on the flip side. Cheers to a good sleep. To which Chris responded with this tweet, rest comfy and easy, dear. This provoked a response from her, calling Chris out for his use of the word dear. Pardon me, I will not allow you to address me as dear. I am not your dear, and none of the other girls and artists involved with Planet Dolan are either. Chris responded with an image of a letter he wrote. I apologize, but I meant the term neutrally, and I never meant anything from that. And one more thing, darling. Tallulah Bankhead, famous during the 1930s and 40s, would be insulted with your response to the term's neutral usage. Humph. The actual transcript of this letter read, open letter. Something that grinds my gears is how people are not accepting of the neutral terms darling or dear. I use one or the other as a neutral addressing, in lieu of the various online nicknames or actual names in general, when that detail is unknown, or when the other person is too distant to trust me. Yet, on addressing them by their name, I swear, if Tallulah Bankhead were alive today, she would never put up with such disrespectful responses. That is all for now, darling. Humph. Christine W. Chandler. He later shared this in a different tweet. I can use dear and darling neutrally as Miss Tallulah Bankhead before us. It's your disrespectful responses to my usage that irks me. Lady replied to Chris's letter with screenshot of dictionary definitions of dear and darling, explaining, those are not neutral words, and you know what? Two can play at that game. Letter writing to try and get an easy way out. Look at this. These are not neutral. You need someone to get through your thick skull. You're not sorry for the women you've horrified. Chris angrily responded with a wall of 10 tweets. Writing a short letter on the topic saves me multiple tweets. It was not an easy way out, as I was not looking for an outlet to try and share my thoughts on the subject and put an ease on it. I care about a lot of people, and I like a lot of people. I do not harass others, and I certainly never intended to horrify anyone. I have a good and kind heart and soul, and I have felt bad about the people I have mistakenly hurt before, including the theoretical online exes of mine who turn out to be false. You are behaving like you do not understand how it feels to be trolled, harassed, and bullied by the 4chan losers, among which, over creating something that you put all of your heart and love into. And Solitude and Roastew and the others there are amongst those closest to my heart, my mother being the closest, and those who have proved their sincere kindness to me have a place in my heart and soul. Why must you act and appear to be siding with the haters and leave the terms as neutral? In the name of honesty, love, and kindness, I will defend myself and punish you, only if I need to. Don't make me feel the need to. Lady responded to 3 separate tweets of his, sparking a tweet war between the two. Tell me now, do those even look like neutral words? Those are words of endearment. Only my hubby uses those for me and him alone. Can I say that's a hell of a lot of bullshit falling out of your mouth right now? What ass did you stick up your head? Clearly your own. There's a big difference between haters and the ones who serve sweet justice towards hooligans like you. You have no heart. Chris responded with, I am not a hooligan, and I do have a heart. Lady responded, if you did, you wouldn't have the nerve to harass Doopy. You're selfish, and it's filled with your heart with fatty layers of greed. Chris denied those claims. I do not mean to harass her. My intentions were misunderstood, albeit I was impulsive and I apologized and repented for that. Misunderstood? You really aren't getting the point here, kid. Your intentions were clear right from the start. There's no hiding. I am not selfish. Then you would have been respectful towards her, but no, you just had to keep going. I meant to be respectful, but obviously I said the wrong things in grave error. The two continue to argue. Obviously, you've effed up bad, and none of us feel any pity for you. I don't need this kind of misunderstood pity. I never was in any of this for the infamy or fame. I will keep defending myself and showing you. Showing me what? What a horrible person you are, that your past and painted smile. I see past your facade. Your actions reflect who you are. The sincere, kind person that I am. I have lots of music and love in my heart and soul. I will not be silenced. I had no facade. My smile is genuine, not painted. You could say whatever you want, Christopher Asshat. Your actions make you who you are. If you cared, you wouldn't continue what you're doing. I grow tired and weary from the dispute that you will not accept. Open with your heart. Just move on forward and on, dear. Darling, good night. We're tired and weary because of you. I've tried and to help you understand. I'm trying to be kind and patient despite your actions. Then why did you speak ill against me if you were meaning to help? Kindness is appreciated, not hurtful tongue. I'm only doing it so you can see why we would see that those terms are non-neutral, for their definitions mean something completely different. Did you not realize that I was addressing the terms the people I liked? Perhaps you used a similar term to address another woman you liked. Like, you say too much bullshit. More like wanted to get up in our business, old man. I would never, especially to someone who's random on the internet. I may be a modner, but I try not to be offensive. And if I do, then I am sorry. I cannot please everyone. You don't try not to be offensive. You love it. You love every second you're offending women. If you wanted to be a woman, you'd respect them. Hide all you want, Christopher. You can't run from this. And as I said, the two continue to argue. You could do with dispelling the hatred and actually getting to know the people you speak against. Lady responded with that she already knew who Chris was, and he knew fine well the people that were doing it. Chris responded with, I do not deny the mistakes I have made, and with that one tweet, my heart was in the right place. To know me based on what the haters and trolls have spewed online is not to know me as the person I actually am, sincere, kind, and open-hearted. Lady responded saying that all Chris was doing was digging himself a deeper hole for failing to understand. Chris responded with, I'll keep digging until when people like you actually understand me and stop being so close-hearted. Love is love, and I stand in its name. Lady responded that Chris desperately needed a reality check, and she had no idea what sort of world Chris was really living in. Chris responded by blocking Lady of the Cosmo and basically wishing her to have a nightmare that night. When this was all over, by the way, fans came to the aid of Lady Cosmo, and for some reason Chris, even himself, got in on this, trying to set the record straight. Remember back in the past when Chris Chan used to say he hated gay people? Yeah, I've heard something like that from the long history of Chris the Harasser. Not only that, but I believe there were a few moments recorded where he did actually say the N-word sometimes. I do not hate gay people, Chris responds with. I actually have hugged a few men recently too. I have matured. Lady responded with that she was crying, and she feels that all Chris was doing was making himself look like a bigger fool. The same person presumably insulted Chris's age in a deleted tweet. Chris proceeded to bring up in the names of his favourite voice actors and claimed to be a library of wisdom. I may be old, but guess who else is older than you like? Betty White, Seth MacFarlane, even Kathy W. Not saying exactly. I don't know who any of those are. They're ancient history, Chris, just like you. Then why do you not watch a lot of television or YouTube? Because they are still famous. Hot in Cleveland, Family Guy, My Little Pony. I may be getting on in years, but I am a library of wisdom, and I have energy to love and live. Lady responded with, you have no heart and no life, so you feel the need to harass women on the internet. Yeah, your life was completely wasted. I have heart. I have life. I do not harass people. I am not a waste of space. I am done with you now. Hope you have a nightmare tonight. Now I am officially done for tonight. Good night. You should be done for good. Enough of your damn bullshit, Chris. Go to hell, you bastard. I hope you go to hell and have to suffer through this again and again and again. Another fan advised Chris to leave Lady alone. Lady replied using male pronouns, to which Chris responded with, I am woman. And then a third commentator asked, making sure that Lady was alright, I am so sorry this has happened to you. Thank you for your concern, I'll be alright. I am more so worried for the women artists and voice actors of PD like Doopy. A fourth person added, don't listen to her, Miss Christine. If you want to talk to a 90-year-old grandma that calls everyone dear or darling, that's your right. Then Lady stepped in again. Stay out of this. You don't want to know what squat he's been doing. Or probably will be doing. A fifth person pointed out how Chris doesn't respond to jerks. Except, well, check his history. It's been creepy stalking all the way. Now, the initial aftermath of this was that Lady posted a tweet saying, people will never learn. I know, right? Not sure what it takes to get through to some people. Sorry you had to go through that. It's alright, it's gonna be A-okay. Someone needs to give that guy a beating once in a while to show his darker side. That's good. I can actually agree with that. Let's hope it's helped. I hope you have a more peaceful rest of your evening/day. Additionally, a fan made a suggestion. Have you ever considered commissioning being referred to by terms like dear or darling? I think one person will pay for it. Lady responded with, I'm kind of tempted to. He won't ever be able to do it with the allowance from his poor mother. He supposedly gets monthly disability social security above 1,000 just for existing. It either goes to you, Legos, or deck collectors. Later, Chris unfollowed Lady of the Cosmo, so she decided to block him as well. Good riddance, that bastard unfollowed me. I couldn't stand him trying to drive himself up my ass. He'll be back, he always does. Nah, I blocked him. She also decided to explain her apparent A-logging in the final few tweets to Chris. Just so you know, when I have snapped when angry is when I start cussing, so I've been calmly arguing until just the last few tweets. No one for the past few days, and he's getting at his for attacking Doopy. Now, also, it should be noted out is that by the time this stopped, on Facebook, the Trollsome gal pal Vivian G posted a picture from the popular cartoon series The Simpsons to try to, at the very least, illustrate what sort of problem Chris really was having, and how she seemed to suggest the idea that Chris was somewhat out of touch. And Vivian tried to explain to Chris that it was not Chris's place to suddenly start what is not okay for other people, and that Chris should be very, very careful and very, very sensible when it comes to doing this sort of thing in the future, because not everybody is going to have the same responses when you call somebody one word and then you call somebody another word, especially as by the end of the whole problems with Doopy is that she specifically stated that she didn't like being referred to by those pet names, and Chris continued to do it anyway. Then this happened. After Chris had experienced quite enough stress for one day, he decided to use his Twitter sock puppet account Nightstar to white knight himself once again. This is despite the fact that only a few weeks prior to this, Chris admitted that Nightstar was a sock puppet account that he had created to bypass all the blocks that people were now putting on him. This is despite his having... Yeah, exactly, that's just what I said. You know what? Here's an example you should all follow. He then talked to himself using both his accounts in a bizarre series of tweets calling himself dear and darling in the process. I've heard that you've been through a tough time with some haters. You don't deserve that, darling. Thank you, dear. I am relieved to hear your kindness, and with hearing the kind term, I feel grateful that at least you like me. That is so kind of you, and I can tell you like me too, and I know you mean that neutrally, and you would never do anything to harass me. Of course, I never mean to harass anyone, I am just misunderstood by some people. Ugh. Chris attempted to justify his behaviour again also, later. I was showing an example of how the terms should be accepted. I was aware of me talking with myself, but to prove the point, people. Lady was later alerted to this existence by the account of a fan. Have to at least mention it. Hope you know about his sock puppet account too. Hope you're okay from even more of that, by the way. Do you know what it's called? Nightstar. It even has his confession after everyone called him out on his bluff. I thought that account looked fishy too. Also look at it, there's replies to himself. And it ends basically with Lady calling Chris a psycho. And then, when this reached the Kiwi Farms, on the 26th, Lady created an account, and after some of the forum's members had started to criticize her behavior, she posted messages explaining her intentions. Hello. I know some of you may think I'm bad. I don't blame you. It's your honest opinion here, and you have every right to say you don't like things about me and what I do. Just like I had every right to tell Chris that I'm uncomfortable with his supposedly free use of dear and darling for me. I rightfully told him that I didn't appreciate him calling me that as nicely as I could, but he remained persistent by saying that I should be okay with it by backing it up with his ramblings of it being out of love and kindness, and that I was being bad for saying I didn't accept him calling me such. You can either understand what I'm trying to say, or you can be against me, or think both me and Chris are in the wrong, or you can see that I simply warned him not to do it again. A son I had said clearly in my first reply to his use of dear in the sentence, I was disturbed by him using it because a man doesn't use that for a woman out of nowhere, who's just a complete stranger to him on the internet. I didn't block him because I was hoping he'd understand and the fact he just liked the things I made. I then went back on and blocked him because of his clear refusal to consider what I've said by using his sock account to reassure himself that I was wrong to think it was disturbing. That was decided by Chris to not listen to my reasonings, and therefore he is no longer my problem now. What he does in the future will certainly not involve me any further with his meandering about the internet. His childish fits won't be ignored, but they won't be listened to either. He will only care about what he believes is right, and everyone who disagrees is wrong and a bad person. I'm sorry for all of you had to see the angry side of me. I understand if you think I'm just as bad as Chris. I only wish for women to feel it's okay to be on social networks without being paranoid that a man will be waiting to start harassing them around every corner of the internet. Moreover, I understand that. I just get worked up really easily and I start to go all over the place. That's just me being me. I overreact a lot. And I can admit that it's one of my many flaws besides my short temper that gets out of control. That has been a personal issue. I let get out of control when I take things to heart. Sorry, forgive me please for my actions. I only wish for him to just say, okay, I'll stop calling you dear or darling. He continued on that and made me upset. I'm sorry once again for acting so foolish. Later on, on the 3rd of September, Chris announced on Twitter that he unblocked all the trolls, which included reforming Lady of the Cosmos account. Again. Why are you following me again? I thought you unfollowed me for a reason that we both know. Call it an impulse since I've just unblocked everyone on my list, since I have forgiven you of the insults, since I like your style. My style? We're cool. Stay safe with peace. The only thing we shared was a fight. There were no smiles that day, nor respect for a single word I said, so there was no peace. You've misread the comment. I shared the smiles and respect for the other people who were sassy and fun, and I respect you too. Chris, if you respected me, you would have heeded my words and wouldn't have made me nearly burst a vein from my major headache over a week ago. So, yeah, essentially all of this ended up by Chris saying that Lady of the Cosmos was cool, and Lady of the Cosmos pretty much responded with that she would have felt more, accepted and far more relaxed and cool with her style if Chris merely just apologized for calling her dear and darling, And she was under the impression that the only reason why Chris was even acting this way in the first place is because Chris still failed to realize that Chris was the one who was trying to inadvertently correct Lady Judgment's assessment of the situation, and still feel as though Lady of the Cosmo didn't have the right to be angry or in any way offended whatsoever by being called things she absolutely does not want to be called and honestly does not like. There's also something that Lady of the Cosmo also said to somebody else about the only reason why Chris was even mad at her in another respect is that Chris would never be as pretty or as ladylike as Lady of the Cosmo, both inside and out. And so, yes, that's, by the way, the end of the whole interactions between Chris and Lady of the Cosmo. And among many of the things that we've learned from this story is that despite the fact that Chris was told time and time again, even to the point where even Lady of the Cosmo went to Kiwi Farms to explain her side of the situation, and even though she absolutely explained that she just has a short temper when it comes to things like this, and the fact that it didn't really seem to matter to her what Chris called her, Chris was sadly under the impression that just because he was doing it for what he felt was the right reasons, therefore any level of promiscuity in terms of implications around paying due diligence to somebody who absolutely has made it clear as day that they do not like it, Chris continued anyway, because it made him feel good, even if it made nobody else feel any better. So, there we go. Now, you may be saying to yourself that actually, since we've gotten to the end of that whole discussion, it just sounds like Chris learned absolutely nothing. Because it's true. Chris really did learn absolutely nothing. Yet, somehow, Chris is meant to believe he did. And something that, to be honest, becomes very, very apparent in the years to come. And, well, who would have thought somebody who thought they were right because it was what they felt was the right thing to do? I'm sure that won't result in Chris facing a few years in prison in the future. But until then, that's the story. So, I'll see all of you guys again next time. Thank you.